and welcome to the newest episode of the untitled 15 Minutes or Less OSINT show. Today, we're going to discuss a favorite of mine, Judy Records, and other sources of public records. We're going to do this in 15 minutes or less, and I'm going to kill the camera. Let me drop my hoodie a bit so that I'm not in full cybersecurity mode. So with this, before we talk about any of the resources, public records, why do we care about public records? They are truthful. They typically come from authoritative sources. They come from government or law enforcement or the courts or property transactions. They have a legal precedent in terms of why they exist. They typically comply with a normalized template or framework. And more often than not, they're free. I put stars next to truthful and free because they're not always entirely truthful. There is such thing as perjury. There is such thing as data being input incorrectly or something to that effect as well. And then sometimes they're not entirely free. We'll discuss that here. While they are available, they're not always widely available. So in that context, what we are referring to is sometimes you have to show up in person and fill out a form. You may even be required to produce some form of identification, whether it be a driver's license or a passport, or jumping to that final bullet, you may also have to show private investigator license, authorization from an agency or department. In some cases, you may have to be sworn to law enforcement to see certain things or have a need to know, such as the case of like sealed cases or cases that may have, say, classified material. In that case, it'll take some time for it to get redacted. Sometimes when you're doing Freedom of Information Act requests, that can be a long and arduous process. I've seen some of my local politicians just absolutely blow those off, which I'm not going to fall down a rabbit hole about some of my local politicians, but let's just say that if I were more involved with local politics, I would probably have higher blood pressure. And then sometimes there are processing fees. While typically the data itself is free, they typically get you via a processing fee. And similar to in-person forms, sometimes that fee has to be paid in person via cash card or check. Sometimes you have to pay it online. And then with the in-person forms, same debacle. Sometimes the public records that you may be seeking relative to a particular investigation may not be actually, they may not be publicly on the computer, right? They may still be in a storage box in their storage facility or in the basement or the attic or anywhere else. There's a lot of places that they could be. So with that being said, keep in mind that they're not always, whenever they say, oh, well, we have to get this, it's not always the case that they're trying to slow the process down. It may just be that's what the process looks like. And everybody does things differently. No two jurisdictions are going to be identical in that regard. It's just like when you're looking for voter data, whether you're looking at voter registration data, campaign contribution data, or data about a particular candidate. Sometimes it's easier to query that than others. In the United States, generally speaking, you can find it, but sometimes you do have to provide certain pieces of information like either the full social security number or the last four, maybe the zip code, other things that technically don't qualify full on as authentication, as in it's a password, but it does enter legal gray areas because you are entering privileged information that in theory, for non-nosy normal people, only the subject should know. So be careful when you are prompted to input information about someone to look at their voter record or something to that effect. Okay, we've talked about all of this. We're about 5 minutes in. Let's look at some public record sites. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on any particular site. I just want to make you aware of some of these sites that we can take a look at. First, obviously, in the title was Judy Records. Judy Records just came back after about a 1-year hiatus. So I'm really excited to see that come back. That's very useful in investigating people, whether that be, say, in a Trace Labs OSINT search party type environment or just investigating a person in general. It's a very useful situation. And the best part is it's free. We have SEC Edgar, which allows us to look for reports about publicly traded companies. We can also look on annualreports.com for that. If we want to learn more about companies, there's Open Corporates. If we want to look at companies and people and the relationship between the two, we have littlesis.org. And then if we want to look at campaign contribution stuff, we've got fec.gov. So let's just dive in and start looking at some stuff here. So right here, this is Judy Records. It's at JudyRecords.com. I'm going to put links to everything in the chat on Twitch, as well as the comment section on YouTube. So it'll be there at the comment section on the on-demand platform as well. So with this, you literally can search for whatever you want. So we'll search for O.J. Simpson. And the reason this was down for about a year was because of some ongoing litigation associated with the state of California. Basically, they tried to cry data breach when there were some non-public records that were pulled into this website because of a processor in between that had improperly classified things. So with that, it basically sat the way it did for about a year as the litigation went on, and it's been back for some time. The most recent, if we go over here to info, we will see that the most recent update was on January 2nd, back online. So it took, approximately 3 weeks for word to trickle out that it was back online, but here we go. So with this, we can look at patents from 1976 to 2022, and there are other things in there as well. So it has more cases than Google Scholar, more than Pacer. And the beautiful thing is with Google Scholar, you can see some of the stuff for free. With Pacer, you have to pay based on a page count. So with that, my apologies. With that, we can just go over here and look, and we're looking for O.J. Simpson in general, but none of these people appear to be that O.J. Simpson. And honestly, there's a good chance that we're not going to see that O.J. Simpson because of the ties to the state of California. But going back over here, if we go here to search tips, this actually gives us the equivalent of Google Dorks for Judy Records. So if we want it to be strict, we use 3 commas. If we want to go lenient, we can use 2 commas. And then we can also do certain things like doing extra filtering using the parentheses and quotation marks. So it actually helps us out quite tremendously. So if we want to exclude, we can also say exclude or just do hyphen, very similar to Google. We've also got the Boolean logic right here as well in terms of and, or, and not. So with that, let's have a look. So we're going to change this to O.J. Simpson, and we're going to make it strictly O.J. Simpson. And I don't think this will actually come up, but there we go. And this right here is an appeal record. So this is from a particular court, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the case that we are looking for. So when we look here, this is the People versus Marshall. So in this case, O.J. Simpson's case is cited somewhere within this. Hence the reason we saw the language about the trial of the century. And I'm just going to expedite this process here. So this is based on a transcript, and we're seeing that a prospective juror, number 6131, was talking about certain items. So in this case, that's what it's referencing. We're not going to see everything in this. As we can see, this is not O.J. Simpson's name, but that's just an example of how we can do that search. If we want to, just using some of the examples that we saw, if we want to say Donald Trump strict Texas minus Florida, so that way we ensure we see Texas and we don't see Florida. This right here can show us court records in terms of this was where Donald Trump and Trump Industries was sued. And that was 2017. So we can go and look through this very easily. If you know a case number, you can do that as well. With this, another site you can use is Court Listener. In this case, this is actually the case involving Judy Records, sent to me by the creator of Judy Records. But in this particular context, as you can see here, in some things we can just click download PDF, but in some cases we say buy on Pacer. And if you go on Pacer, you have to go to Pacer's website. I'm not going to sign into Pacer, but with Pacer, it's approximately 10 cents per page, which is not the end of the world, but it's worth being aware of. And in this case, this is the case. We have these two attorneys for the defendant, Tyler Technologies, and then we have the plaintiffs here versus Tyler Technologies and the State Bar of California. So this is the whole case for that, all 6 pages. So this talks about why Judy Records was down for a year. Pacer, again, that's the public access to court electronic records. It's not free, but it is a public record. With SEC, given that we're about 12 minutes in, I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty quickly. With this, we just go in, we search for an executive name, a company name, a stock ticker, and we pull up anything that mentions that person. You can also use annual reports. It does the exact same thing, except you're not touching a .gov website. Open corporates, this allows us to search about a particular company. We can look in certain jurisdictions as well, based on country or state in this case as well. It's pretty useful. You can search as a basis of companies or officers. So for example, we'll look for Parlay in the United States. While it's loading, we'll go over here to Little Sis. Little Sis does some similar stuff. It shows mind maps and also connections between one entity to another. It's not really showing anything too exciting here without a search, but with it, you can see kind of what's going on with the site. So basically, this is showing that it's showing connections between who is paying for what. This is a way to follow money. And then finally, we've got FEC. With this one, I'm not going to do a search with it because realistically, anybody that I search here for like a specific individual, it has the potential to dox them. If they have donated to someone, depending on what's on the form, we may get their full home address. And quickly with this, okay, we've got all these things with Parlay, so we're not sure which one it is. Strong chances it's probably this one, but basically you have to go through and see which one is which. We can go the direction of finding out which one it is. There it is, I think. And then from this, we get links directly to the Secretary of State, so we can see the filing as well. And then there are branches, so we can definitely follow the connections around. With that being said, though, we are up on the time. So thank you for joining today. Be sure, if you're watching this on Twitch live, be sure to subscribe so you can receive notifications when we go live. I'm planning on doing possibly a longer session over the weekend on a particular topic or something. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. I have to say that in jest. Here are mine and the OSINTion's socials. I'm at C_3PJoe and at the OSINTion. There are links to LinkedIn, the blog, and other social media. If you're interested in training, you can sign up for live courses at theosinttion.com/courses. We've got courses coming up on February 4th, the Investigations People course, and February 6th, the Cryptocurrency Investigations course. If you are interested in on-demand courses, you can check those out at academy.theosinttion.com. We're streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/theosinttion or on YouTube at youtube.com/@theosinttion9198. If you are interested, please join the Discord. The link to that is osint.mobi/Discord. With that being said, I think I went about 30 seconds above time. My apologies for that. I will see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.